We invite you to journey with POWERinU to empower yourself and your teams.
Hello, everyone. I am John Marie Mercado, a certified executive coach and a sales, marketing, and business consultant. I will be hosting tonight's complimentary webinar, Coaching 101, the Coach and Coachees Perspective. Before I introduce you to our panel, let's take a couple of minutes to define what is coaching. We're all familiar with the terms advice, counseling, and coaching. What is common across all three is that they are designed. Sheila, can we have the slide, please? Thank you. So the all coaching, advice, and counseling are all designed to help the performer. When I say performer, that's the person who receives the advice, the person being counseled, or the person being coached, or the coachee. But how different are these three? In advice, the conversation is led by the advisor, who may probably say, well, here's how I will handle the situation. In counseling, the counselor leads the discussion with something like, I'd like to talk to you about report turnaround time. In coaching, the focus is on the performer, who is given a chance to lead the conversation. The coach will ask the performer, what are you struggling with? What is your goal? We have also heard the terms mentoring and training. In this case, both are designed to help develop, such that a mentor will provide guidance based on its expertise. The next slide, please. Thank you. So the mentor will provide guidance based on his expertise, while a trainer will teach the performer what to do. Coaching focuses on the performer's goals and how he or she can achieve it. Next slide, please. Okay, so I've said this already. The mentor will provide guidance. The trainer will teach. Okay. In summary, next slide, please. So in summary, coaching is a service conversation. It focuses on the coach's goals and interests. It can be one time or it can be ongoing. But what is critical is that it requires the coach to adjust to the coachee so that the focus remains with the coachee. Right? After having given you this very brief definition, let's now expand this and get a deeper perspective into coaching. Tonight, we have with us an esteemed panel of leaders and practicing certified coaches who will share with us their unique perspectives on coaching. Without further ado, let me introduce our panelists, who are all directors of POWERinU Philippines. Please welcome Mr. June Marfori, Ms. Elaine Cercado, Ms. Penny Bongato, and Mr. Benji Garcia.
Hi, Joms.
Hi, Elaine. Hi, Benji. Hi, June. Hi, Penny.
Hello, good
Welcome.
Hi,
evening.
Hi, good evening. Hi,
everyone. Good evening.
Hello.
Good evening. Okay, now, ladies and gentlemen, coaching is not a new phenomenon, and it certainly gained much ground and found its rightful place in personal development and self-leadership, leading to people and organizational transformation and success. Now, I gave a very brief definition of coaching, but I understand there are numerous coaching types. What are they? Benji, can you help describe the different coaching types?
Well, Joms, there are actually many and probably even increasing at this time. The ones that I know, which are driven by the goal of the coachee or the interest or the need of the coachee would be things like leadership coaching, life coaching, career coaching. There's even grief coaching. I've listened to a podcast where the speaker was a grief coach. And last year, we even had as a guest in our webinar, someone who is more of a health and wellness coach. So that's one area. But there's also other types that are related to group coaching, and more recently, team coaching is something that's developing a lot of interest, particularly from the West. So that's not an inclusive list.
So it's a whole gamut of interest depending on, again, it goes back to the coachee,
Yes.
what the coachee needs, right? Then I know you're very much into team coaching right now, but how do you determine which coaching type works best for the coachee?
As Benji mentioned, John Marie and our participants, it's really what the coachee needs. So if the coachee is in corporate and would require, how do you improve your performance? It may be performance coaching. If it's an executive, it may be, increase the profit and all those things. It may be executive coaching. I've had several coaches in life coaching, and they want to move forward with their lives. In career coaching, they want to. I've done a lot of career shifts, so I know what career coaching is and how to shift careers. So again, it really depends on what the coach needs, so that you can tailor fit the coaching way that you will do, again based on what the coach needs.
So an individual, and I would like to get some coaching, you as my coach can help determine which best fits my requirements, right? So
Yes.
again, it's all about the coaching.
Yes,
All right.
that's right.
Thank you, Penny. So, but in different types of situations, different types of coaching. But in any of these cases, Elaine, what exactly does coaching do?
Thanks, Jo Marie. Let me answer from both the coach and the coachee perspective. So, as a coachee or as a performer, the person discovers a perspective, different perspectives through the process of coaching. And with that perspective, clarity is gained. And with that gained clarity, new inputs, and outputs, can be arrived at. That output can be a decision, an action, a desired outcome. Now, from a coach perspective, the coach partners and journeys with the person. And along that journey, the coach becomes a listener, a perspective shifter, a big dreamer, with the big possibilities, a questioner, rather, a comfort zone challenger, and a cheerleader.
That's very very challenging at the same time exciting, right? But you're basically a sounding board, but providing guidance to the coachee. Is that correct?
Yes, providing guidance, providing support, partnering, journeying.
And having done that, June. So, what is the person being coached? What does he stand to benefit? What's in it for the coachee?
Well, Joms, I think Elaine kind of really captured the crux, no, so to speak, because when the coach is demonstrating and applying those skill sets that are expected of him or her, which is to provide the perspective, or to help unlock and the potential of a coach, a performer, then the purpose of coaching is really to help the individual being coached, in this case the performer, to be able to expand his or her potential on his or her own. And in the process, the person becomes more accountable, has more ownership. It is not to say that when you are being told by your coach that you may not have ownership, but of course, ownership is much more powerful and effective when you, as the performer, is able to arrive at the solution on your own. And this is achieved when the person, the coach, is able to apply emphatic listening, is able to, and I think Elaine mentioned this as well, to do purposeful, contextual questioning. And through this encounter, in this situation, he or she is able to draw out the dynamic potential of the performer, as opposed to the coach being a subject matter expert and telling the coach, the performer, what to do. So in reality, the performer is really able to benefit from the shared journey of the coach, but the coach helps lead the process, but it's actually the person being coached who is leading the process if he or she cooperates with the coach. So that's a significant potential gain that can be both in both cases, a win-win solution actually, John Marie.
So it's very interesting because you use the word journey. It's a journey that the coach and the coachee take together.
Yeah.
Right?
Right, it is.
But Benji, sorry, let me throw a question back at you. Based on your experience with your coaching that you've done in the past, right? Don't you encounter a situation where the coachee may actually say, well, if you're just going to listen to me, why do I need the coach?
Yeah.
That's a very good point.
Benji?
Because, yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, but that's a good point. Listening is a very important part of coaching. And you know, what's interesting is that sometimes by just allowing the coachee or the performer to articulate what's on his mind, there's already some clarity that comes with that. No, it's as I think Elaine mentioned, being a sounding board, and just literally being a sounding board can already pay dividends as far as the coachee or the performer is concerned. But oftentimes there's something more than that. But it's key for the coach to be able to really listen, not only for what is being said, but more importantly, what is not being said, and maybe even more importantly, what is being felt. And that's, of course, a little bit more challenging when you're doing coaching virtually. But there are cues that the coach pays attention to, and that drives the direction, that helps drive the direction where the coaching conversation should go.
You know, that's very, very important what you just said. What is being said, more importantly, what is not being said or what's being felt, right? Because, and I think that's why coaching becomes important from a coach's perspective. Because if I just do it to myself, I just talk to myself, I may not even be able to distinguish one from the other. And Penny, we've talked about the coachee. Let's talk about you as a coach, right? Why do you coach? Can you share with us maybe one personal experience that helps you, that you know, uh, makes you happy that you are a coach?
Let me tell you my experience, Joms. No, in 2006, I had my first coach. 2006, I was still in after our company where we were together. I started having an Australian coach, and I've had my Australian coach for more than 10 years. I had two coaches, and my second coach has helped me develop what I am now. She challenged me to write books. She challenged me to be Canfield certified. She challenged me to do a lot of things that I never thought I would do. And then when I realized that I can be something else better than myself, I did the Canfield training. You know that. And in the Canfield training, we teach people how to reach their desired state, which is basically what we want in coaching. What do you want to do? What do you want to be? What do you want to become? And when I did that, then I found my purpose. I want to touch 100,000 people's lives, 100,000 Filipinos. You know my purpose. 100,000 Filipinos. However, I realized that I can't do that in training because it will just fly over them. They will forget. And the best way to do that is coaching. The best way to make a difference is coaching. That's why I ventured into coaching. so that I can really make an impact in touching people's lives and making their lives even better. It's really for them and making me happy that I help them. So that's my
Be happy to, Penny. I keep referring back to your book every time I need to get some clarity in my head. Benji, after you started coaching, maybe can you remember a particular experience which reinforced why you coach?
Yes, one of my coachee was someone that the company sponsored for a coaching program because he was actually being groomed for a promotion. And along the way, as we talked about the different issues that he was encountering at work, and being able to help him start really reflecting on what's important to him, what are the values that really represents who he is as a person, navigating the organization politics and the dynamics. He got to have a really clear idea of what are the things that really are most important to him. Now, after that, this was sometime after we completed the coaching program, he sent me a message actually that he got the promotion to a director. And, you know, that was something that really made my day when I saw that, that message saying, you know, he finally got the promotion.
So that's the fulfillment. Benji, quick side question. That particular scenario that you mentioned, how long was the coaching set? How long was the coaching program?
Oh, that was
Did it run for 3 months? Did it run for?
No, that was a long program. Actually, we had coaching sessions, maybe about over a period of 2 years, but there were gaps in between. So there were completion of about 6 sessions, and then there was a gap, and then we had a new program. But overall, it was about 2 years, a period of 2 years.
Now, we talked about why you coach, Benji, why Penny coach. But, you know, you can't just say one day, hey, I want to coach, and then start, right? I think that's where a lot of people fail in the process. How does one prepare to become or practice being a coach? Elaine, maybe you can help us understand this.
Yes, it's not easy. Number one, as you mentioned in your definition, it's a service-oriented approach. So one has to be 100% egoless. And that's not easy, right? Because, I mean, it's human nature for us to want to control, to want to talk about ourselves, you know. So there are 2 key things that I'd say are important to being a coach. Firstly, is our own journey of personal development and professional development. We need to have very strong personal foundations, very strong to the point that like we can let go of that control. We can be egoless. We can take that service-oriented approach. We can truly listen and open the coachees to, you know, the different perspectives and meet the coachee where he or she is. So this is a requirement. I believe that is first. You know, the second would be to acquire the coaching skills. And I think June, Penny, and Benji have already mentioned many of those. For example, empathetic and contextual listening. So it's not just about communicating. In fact, it's you know, in the traditional sense that we like to talk, it's more about being on the other side, really listening and being present 100%, communicating verbally and non-verbally, and more so in that non-verbal space, which is what Benji said, listening beyond the words, using neutral language, reading beyond the words, asking great questions. And then the other would be asking critical questions such that different perspectives could be seen, you know, facilitating contextual thinking, facilitating systemic thinking, seeing the relations and interdependencies among things. And then finally, helping facilitate that progress, you know, because at the end of the day, we talked about the coach being accountable, driving the agenda, driving the outcome. So as a coach, we need to be able to help facilitate that progress, that desired outcome.
I mean, when you talked about being egoless and detaching yourself, I remember one of my biggest challenges when I first started coaching was to become not a mentor but a coach, because being raised in the corporate world where we're very used to a mentor-mentee scenario where you're the subject matter expert and telling the other person how it can be done based on your personal experience. Suddenly in coaching, you're not supposed to do that. Is that correct?
Exactly, and I can relate much with you, Joe Marie. That's, I think, a common challenge among experienced professionals and coach. When we have a wealth of experience that we can share. But as we said, it's different. Coaching is different from mentoring.
Yeah, so it's not that easy, right? And you talked about being experienced and having years and years of practice or experience. June, so
Yes, Joms.
what preparation do you need so that you can become an effective coach? I mean, Elaine talked about some of those skill sets, right? And
Yeah.
especially focused on the attitude. But what
Yeah.
else can you add?
Well, of course, Joms, there is something that Elaine also mentioned, which is the acquisition of the necessary skill sets. But allow me to still amplify what Elaine said, no, because I think the attitude is fundamental. I would insist that really part of preparation to become an effective coach is that you would insist that you are genuine in aspiring to, have the performers in your charge to be a better person. They're better today than they were yesterday, to be better tomorrow than they are today, by helping this person actually become much more accountable for his or her decisions. So that mindset is fundamental. It's the first and fundamental motivation that coaches need to adopt to be able to even begin along this noble journey. Having said that, Joms, of course, part of the preparation are the technical training that are necessary to equip a coach, no? And there are what you might call standards. Among those, for instance, would be receiving the appropriate coaching skills techniques from institutions that are accredited by perhaps the world's premier global coaching body, which is the International Coaching Federation. Because when you are aspiring to be a coach and you complete a foundational course that is with an accredited institution, ultimately your path should lead you to become part of a bigger body that within its network provides mutual reinforcement as well as constant and the continuous development of your skill sets. The other thing, Jones, is that you need to, just like a pilot would do, you need to practice, practice, practice. I guess, I liken it to a pilot because a pilot could complete all of the simulations and maybe even practice and perfect to a T, landing, cruising, as well as taking off. But unless the person acquires a certain number of hours in flying, the person does not really become an expert. Now, is it just a matter of providing or making yourself available for coaching interactions with persons who are in your charge? No, not just that. But as Elaine, Benji, and Penny had also mentioned, you need to, in those interactions, use emphatic listening. You need to be contextually listening. You need to be asking questions. You need to be taking a back seat, but at the same time, being a sounding board. So a lot of these necessary skill sets and attitudes complement the technical training that's needed. But then I would again go back to something that Elaine had said earlier when she answered your question, that fundamentally you need to acknowledge the fact that you're not going to be taking a back seat, but journeying along with the person in your charge, so that the success of that person essentially is the metric of your success as a coach, when that person is able to unlock his or her potential through your leading and through your journeying with that person. So those, I think, are some of the essential preparations to becoming an effective coach, Jo Marie.
So the fulfillment doesn't come from the traditional approach where I am successful in what I do, but rather my coaching became successful based on our sessions, and I gained fulfillment because of that.
Ultimately, yes, Jo Marie. The success is not defined by me, but defined by the coachee or the performer.
So, quick follow-up question. How long, in your particular case, how long did it get to the point when you were comfortable being a coach? Because there's the technical aspect, there's all of these soft skills that you have to apply, right? How long before it took you got comfortable?
If that question is directed to me, Jones, I would not say it is measured in terms of the number of hours that I spent in total, but that level of comfort is, to me, is measured per coachee or per performer. Because just like in any interaction, the initial encounter is kind of getting to know. And so it is there, as a matter of fact, where it's very important that I take on the posture of listening, asking questions, understanding the situation of the individual, and being very specific. What desired outcome would you like out of this interaction or conversation? And being emphatic listener in those situations and being on point in asking questions to help lead a person along will also increase my confidence. Now, how do I measure that confidence? I'll measure it when, to the degree that the individual I'm in a coaching conversation with begins to actually open up. To me, that's a very specific and concrete sign of traction, of chemistry, and then you would see the diminishing number of questions. So when the person would say, "What would you do, June? What would you suggest?" To the degree that the person is now, "Yeah, let me think about it. Yeah, you're right. You've got me thinking, June." Then I become comfortable as well. I hope that helps.
Yeah, no, I'm smiling because it brings back memories of my first coachee, where that was exactly what happened when he keeps on saying, "You got me thinking," and by the third session, he wasn't calling me by my name; he was calling me coach. So for me, that was flattering because okay, he's really acknowledged that I am his coach. Benji, you talked about this getting to know you, right? Because you need to break the barriers when you're starting your coaching conversations. But in the last couple of years, we've moved away from face to face. How did you adjust in a virtual environment? How do you get to know you in a virtual environment?
That's right.
Benji?
Yeah, I was one of those who had been doing coaching face to face before the pandemic. And thanks to the pandemic, I didn't have much of a choice but to go virtual so that I can continue coaching my clients. But fortunately, we were able to actually manage through, and with a lot more focus in terms of the conversation, paying attention to the tone of the client, the facial expressions. It's really helped me hone my power of observation, what was really going on. And one thing I learned in my training also is that sometimes you have to follow your gut feel, and it's okay if you don't get it right. Now, if you're sensing an emotion and you're able to actually sense that even virtually, that was something that I found really amazing. I used to think that that doesn't transmit when you talk about when you are doing virtual. But realistically, you can. If you pay attention, you can actually sense emotion. But sometimes you can also make a wrong assumption, and it's okay. The client will actually tell you if it's not the right emotion, and will correct you, and that's okay. As Elaine said, no ego. So it's like I don't need to be right about how I read your feelings right now. If it's wrong, just tell me. So bottom line, it's still workable virtually. Although to be honest, many of my clients right now, my coaches, are quite excited to actually do face to face because we've been coaching for over 6 sessions now, and all of it was done virtually.
And yeah, of course, the desire to see each other face to face, right? Tell me, I remember the last time uh, I remember we were in a Zoom call once, and then you had to drop because you said I have three coaches lined up for the rest of the afternoon. And what was your worst experience in terms of being a virtual coach?
Uh, Not seeing the person face to face is challenging. And I remember, as Elaine mentioned, Benji mentioned, drop the ego. And if I hear the person saying something, so I repeat it, and then that person will say, "No, that's not what I said." And I'll scratch my head. So did I listen well? And because I was taking notes, one of the things that
Yep.
we learn from the advanced coaching, so we coaches, we continue to learn as well, we continue to study as well, is don't take notes, listen actively. So don't take notes, listen to the person, listen, watch the body language. um, Thinking is the enemy of coaching, so you're not supposed to think of the next question that you'll ask. You have to listen to the person and repeat it. So the most challenging for me was, you know, not taking notes. That's hard because I'm so used to
Yes,
taking
I
notes.
know you, Perry. I know you,
Right?
Perry. You will always take notes.
We work together, so I always take notes. So that was a challenge for me. But when I learned that skill, I'm not taking notes anymore. I remember having talked to my coach and a lot of insights when I repeated what she said. I, when was saying, I can see the smile on your face. It's from ear to ear. And then she started laughing. And then that's where the rapport building comes in. And that's where the insights or the the shift in mindset comes in. Oh, yes, that's a good question. I never thought about that. So really paying attention to the coachee, not taking notes, but there are some clients clients would require to upload in their portal the notes that you have. So it's really being present at the moment, really being present. But sometimes it's a challenge in this virtual environment.
But it actually forced you to do it, and it built another skill within your portfolio where you can actually read your coachee even in a virtual environment.
That's right. That's right. That's and I've had what more than 60 virtual coaches, and I've never seen them, and I don't intend to see them because they live in Bulacan and Marikina and Antipolo. So where will we meet? Anyway, it's
So
best for them.
look at the bright side of what happened with the pandemic. It actually expanded your market, right?
Yes, it
Now,
did. Wait,
sorry,
well,
one
now,
other.
now,
Yes, sorry,
now,
go ahead.
now, now, there is another new form of coaching I'd like just to mention because people might be interested in this or new offering, team coaching. And as Benji and Elaine mentioned, team coaching, and you mentioned team coaching is now being talked about. And ICF has come out with a team coaching certification. I'm taking team coaching as well. And it's now the 21st century skill is collaboration and teamwork. So now we talk about stakeholders and internal processes and stakeholders that are not within the organization. And that's why team coaching is also very important and it's very challenging.
One last follow-up question. You can take notes, but is it okay to record your conversation?
You have to ask permission.
Yes, of course. But once
Mhm.
given permission, then that gives you the facility to take notes after the fact,
Yes,
right?
yes,
So
yes,
that gives you that comfort level that, okay, I have my notes. I still have my notes, even if I did write it down at the precise instant that it happened.
yes. But
Right.
if the coach says don't take notes and don't record,
Oh, yes.
you have to remember it right away.
Another skill that you have to develop.
Yes, that's a skill you have to develop. And for us,
Right.
senior moments, this might be so hard, but it can be done. Practice makes
But
competence, not practice makes perfect. Practice makes competence.
I like that. Practice makes competence. Elaine, I asked Benji and Penny about some of their experiences. In your case, can you share with us what was your most fulfilling coaching conversation?
There are many. And every coaching conversation is fulfilling. It's unique. It can be as simple as being unstuck or discovering a breakthrough, pursuing something, and fulfilling or accomplishing an action, being successful in that, gaining clarity, when someone is so confused. So it can be as simple as that, or it can be very complex as well, and can take many many sessions. I can share a couple of fulfilling conversations, coaching conversations, where I had this coachee who had a lot of creative ideas and plans, but sometimes the person would get blocked, and when the person is blocked or a feedback is received, the person gets confused and doesn't pursue anymore any action in the end. So through the coaching conversations that we've had, the person was able to move forward, look at the issue at hand from different perspectives, gets unstuck, and as a result, the person gets to overcome whatever doubts he or she has, and gets to trust herself or himself more. And I think that by itself is very fulfilling. I had another coachee who actually went through a crossroad. That time she was, well, I'd say she, because it was a choice between two vocations, and the two vocations being one on parenthood, the other on fulfilling, her corporate journey, going through that corporate journey. One of the things that was very fulfilling was many years after, the person, because we kept in touch, told me that, you know what, the best decision I've made and the best action I've made really is to pursue my calling, my passion, and being able to discover that in the first place, discover my purpose, and pursue that passion, pursue that calling that I have, and that was parenthood for her. But she had many many challenges, many many highs, but many many lows as well, and came to a point where she wanted to change or shift again, and she did that, became entrepreneur, and so many many roadblocks and challenges along the way, but in the end still goes back to that moment that discovering her purpose was the best decision that she has done. And that to me, being part of that journey was very fulfilling.
It's back to what you were saying. It's the success of your coachee that defines your success as a coach.
Absolutely, you're correct. Yeah. So it's really that fulfillment is because you see the person empowered and really taking an action on something that was the desired outcome or the desired action in the first place.
Elaine, June, before I ask you the question that I had in mind, we do have a question from Dustin here on the chat box. Uh, do we have a certain recommended exposure or time before we can be an expert in coaching? As you mentioned earlier, right? If it's a pilot, it's so many hours of flying. Is there a benchmark, or is there a guidepost on that one?
Well, I would also invite my colleagues to speak and answer this. But for me, there seems to be no defined minimum because, like I said, there are certain, at least, should we say, fundamental prerequisites. And the first one is, of course, to be able to, well, adopt that egoless and others-centric attitude and mindset, that it is your desire to, by being a coach, to actually help individuals develop their potential and unleash their potential. Then, of course, there is the minimum number of hours that are required to be able to complete the technical skills training, because one cannot just take on being a coach because you wanted to become one. There are certain accredited institutions that will provide the fundamentals. And then my colleagues here will probably also mention, and they'll be happy to share details if needed, that there are also a number of coaching frameworks that one can elect to be part of and be certified by. And each of these are not necessarily better than the other. It also just allows you to expand your capacity and your options when applying coaching during those conversations. And you'll find that the more that you're actually certified in additional frameworks, the more you can apply based on what is most appropriate. But in terms of a defined number of coaching, I would again equate it to flying. The more hours of practice, then the better. Because at some point, if you are very self-aware, you also realize that in some coaching conversations, you yourself had made the error. You might have moved into a mentoring posture rather than a coaching posture. And if you catch yourself, then you know that you need to avoid that next time. So while it's a journey for your coaches or your performers, it's a journey for the coach as well. And there is no defined length of time for that. That's my opinion, Jo Marie.
Penny, I think you wanted to say something. Yes, please.
Yes,
Go ahead.
I'd like to add. So in the technical sense, if you are a member of ICF, International Coaching Federation, and you want to move up from professional coach to the next level, which is associate certified coach, you have to have 100 hours of coaching. 100 hours. And there's an exam, there's recordings that you need to submit that proves that you are already at ACC level. And it's hard. And the exam is so hard because it's in the code of ethics of ICF. I tell you, it's so hard. I thought 120 questions for 3 hours is chicken. It's easy. I was up to the last minute. I thought I'd fail, and then I passed. But it's not that. It's really the experience. It's really the experience you had. And as June mentioned, maybe you thought you're coaching, but you're not coaching, you're mentoring. So that's why the recording is so important. So if you are going to look at the expert, at least for ICF, there's the ACC, there's the PCC, Professional Coach, Certified Coach, and the MCC, which is the master of all coaches. And obviously, for some, they might want to move to the next level. It gives PCC needs 500 hours of coaching. That's why some of the coaches are doing reciprocal coaching so that they can gain the number of hours. There's another group in Europe. It's called EMCC. It's the European something coaching. It's like ICF, but it's a different kind of certification. And they have different standards as well. So being an expert is really up to you and how you practice the skill of getting the best out of your coachee, not mentoring, and being present for the coachee to be the best version of themselves.
And again, it's all about the coaching, right? So Benji, for example, when you approach a coaching session, so you have one scheduled tomorrow morning, for example, do you have it in your mind that, okay, this is my objective for this 1 hour that I will have with my coaching tomorrow? This is what I want to achieve. Do you approach it that way?
Are you directing it to me, John?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, sorry. I got lost for a while. Not really. But I do set aside a few minutes before the start of the coaching session to remind myself of the role that I will be playing, a bit of meditation, and actually prayer. In my case, I subscribe to the view that coaching is also a mission, and therefore it is not only relying on my power. There is that point of view that when you talk about Christian coaching, that you can call upon the Holy Spirit to be able to discern. So it's not my own wisdom, my own ability alone that guides me through coaching. I ask for divine intervention, if you will, to help me help the person that I'm trying to coach.
And again, we're back to that, right? Helping. Very, very important word, operative word to remember. And it's all about the coachee. Now, I've basically gone through some of the questions. Now, prior to the start of our session, when some of our participants registered for this session, they already sent some questions in advance. And by the way, to our participants right now, if you do have any additional questions, you can type it on the chat box, and we'll try to accommodate as many of these questions as we can in the time that we have remaining. But let me start off with Elaine. Elaine, when you coach, do you have to consider if your coaching is Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, Millennial, or Phillennial?
First of all, I had to Google what was philenya. Okay, I wasn't familiar with that term. So feeling millennial pala. All right. So for me, it's not about the generation or the age of the person. I think what's really, really important is the coachability of the person. When there's coachability, age doesn't matter, or generation doesn't matter. A person can be a Gen X, a Gen Y, or a person can be a mature person, probably in the Gen X, um, and be very coachable, and that's the most important thing, that commitment, and between the coach and the coachee, that trust in that relationship and that journey together, that partnering together. On the other hand, there can be a very mature person or a very young person, and yet, either might not be coachable, might not be ready at that point in time. And so it's not, I don't think it's really about that generation. Of course, you could argue there it could be a factor, but at the end of the day, what's very important in that relationship between the coach and the coachee would be the trust and that coachability from the coachee or the performer, as well as the coach. Like what we've been saying. Yeah, it's very important for the coach to be coachable as well.
On that one, quick follow up on that one. It's because I always hear this, like the millennials live on internet speed, so they tend to be very impatient. Now the coaching process can actually be long, tedious, and drawn out, right? How do you handle that?
So that's where, it's still me, right? Who's answering? So,
Yes, yes,
um,
yes, yes.
yeah, and of course, my panelists, other, co-panelists can answer as well. But uh, that's where the communication skills, the listening, the empathetic, the all the skills that we have been talking about, those are the requirements of being a good coach, would come in. Being able to read the language, the nonverbal language, especially, and being able to ask good questions, the follow through. All of these are these are the things that will really make that relationship, that coaching conversation going. So adapting in the process will come in, adapting to the coachee.
Joms, I'd like to add to what Elaine
Yes,
said.
yes, please.
I hope
Yep.
you can allow me to. Uh, my
Yes, yes,
mentor,
please.
we have. I'm taking up advanced coaching, and my mentor coach said, "Be very careful because of my age, that because of my age, and if it's in the BPO, you know very well, they know me. They might just say what you want to hear." So that surprised me. Is she saying what she really wants to say, or is she saying what I want to hear? I have to be able to discern that. I have to be able to know that so that I can coach her even better. So that was a surprise to me. I didn't realize that. Then I realized, because they always call me Miss Penny. Eh. So I realized, yeah, no, she might just be saying what I want to hear. So is that really what she wants? So again, understanding, listening, asking powerful questions, asking the right questions, coming from the gut, not coming from the book, and making sure that you are um, being there present at the moment. And it's I'm sure Benji knows this. Coach the person and not the problem.
And, you brought out a very, very important point, really, that point about the coach is saying what you want to hear, what he or she thinks that you want to hear, right? Benji, there's a question that came up in the chat box, though. How do you deal with people who are very sensitive and easily affected or hurt by feedback? Okay, you try to deliver the feedback in a very professional manner, but the coachee got offended or hurt.
Yeah, from my experience, this goes back to the coachability. So the key point, the foundation of the conversation will always have to be one, the willingness of the coachee to be coached. Otherwise, what's the point in having the conversation? And understanding the rules, if you will, the guidelines within the coaching conversation, which actually includes being challenged. So it's okay. I should say, fortunately or unfortunately, had that experience already of a coachee actually getting mad at me for actually challenging, and I thought that was the end of the. I thought that was going to be the end of the coaching program, but interestingly enough, in the succeeding session, there was that realization. So it's okay. Of course, that means you have to phrase it properly. You have to communicate it in a respectful manner. So assuming the sensitivity or the reaction is really coming from the person being taken out of their comfort zone, and that's part of coaching. Sometimes that you'll need to do that, challenging the perspective, challenging their assumption, and or maybe telling them something that deep inside they already know, but they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to face it.
So you don't necessarily intentionally put them out of their comfort zone, do you?
Well, it depends, because sometimes when there is an issue, for example, that is driven by a perspective, the question is that perspective a fact or is that an assumption? And many times it's actually driven by an assumption. So there's no data that actually confirms what this person is being upset about. It's just, their mind playing tricks on them, or them creating their own story in their mind about the background. So, I mean, our minds are very capable of doing that. You have that model of what they call the ladder of influence. Different situations, all before you know it, you already have a story at the back of your mind of what's happening, but hardly any facts to back it up. So you challenge that. You challenge the perspective. Is that a fact or is that an assumption? What basis do you have for saying that? Things like those. So they could get upset. Nobody likes to be proven wrong in a way.
Right. And your experience really shows here, right? Being able to calmly step back and make those statements, because it can be a challenge, really. June, we have a lot of cases where the coachees became your coachee because you were engaged by the company that they're working for. Because the company says, okay, this manager of mine, I'd like him to be coached. But what if the coachee doesn't like to be coached? How do you deal with that?
Well, quite frankly, I've not encountered a situation where the person still willingly went through the process if the person was reluctant. But I guess your question implies that during the coaching conversation, it can come out from the initial contact that the person seems to be hesitant to actually proceed. then I would still would have asked the person, because only because I have not encountered that, I would ask the person, well, we are into this relationship, albeit that it is something that may have been against your preference. But just the same, because we are here, what particular desired objective or outcome would you like to achieve by just having a casual conversation? And so really, the opportunity is still there to be able to make a difference, no matter that the person might be reluctant in terms of the framework against which the person went into the coaching engagement, because the person was sponsored. But still, I think that the coach, if deftly able to navigate through that situation, can simply say, well, we are where we are. What outcome would you like to be able to achieve? How can we make this conversation productive and useful to you? And so we can still proceed on that basis, and perhaps say, let's go through this conversation. Let's see, let's start with this and see if there's value in proceeding to the next conversation. So at the end of that first conversation, you might say, what are your thoughts about this conversation? And what are some of the things that you think are beneficial that might carry us forward to the next conversation? What are your thoughts? Again, taking a position of enabling the person, empowering the person, emphatically listening, and giving the person the opportunity to draw first dibs, so to speak.
That takes a lot of patience as well. But Elaine, for example, has it ever happened to you where you wanted to say, it's no longer working, this person is not coachable? Has it ever happened to you, Elaine?
It has. It has happened.
So share with us the horror story.
Am I allowed?
You're not mentioning names. I mean, in general, why was it not working?
Well, there were I couldn't recall the exact reason, but at any point in time there could be many factors there. As we mentioned, the coachability, the person just not really focusing as well on what has to be done, because there in our contract, so to speak, because there are the responsibilities as well of the coachee, to follow through, the accountability. That accountability might not have been pursued or followed through, and so the person comes into the session unprepared. That's a word that I might I can use it, I can think of at the moment. So the session, if in that session the coachee is unprepared, and as we've said, they drive the agenda, they drive the the session. If they're not prepared, then the session is not as productive as how we want it, or how he might have or she might have envisioned it to be.
Did you end up having a conversation with the coachee on being prepared, or you agreed on certain action items at the end of one session, you pick it up in the next session, and when you got to the next session, he or she didn't do anything?
Yeah. So what happens, Jo Marie, and then of course every coach might have a practice that's different. But for me as a coach, I do have processes as well, because coaching is part of what we learn when we get certified is following those processes. The skill set, we have of course templates and tools that we use, and so one of the tools or templates that we use is that to guide the coachee or performer to follow through, so that there is something done. And that is part of that progress skills that we talk about, or accountability. We help the person, we facilitate the person to progress through the steps and gain milestones, and until the person of course arrives at the desired outcome.
I saw you smiling when I was asking that question of Elaine. Did you have a similar experience, or even a worse experience? Penny?
Me,
Yes,
Jones?
yes.
Oh, I did. I had a coachee that was I found very difficult because he was of a different nationality and a very Western nationality at that. And I had to understand the culture, the cultural differences. And you know, as Filipinos, he was the head of the shared services. And you know, as Filipinos, we just follow and follow and follow, right? Even if we don't want to, we don't say it. So he thought he was doing the right thing. And when his 360 came out, he was very hesitant to share it because he didn't believe it because so a lot of questions. And it was it was kind of difficult for me because I had to learn and understand the culture that he was coming from. And again, cultural differences, diversity in inclusion, and making sure that we understand each other. And that's a good thing about coaching. You know, it spans beyond borders. But what I found difficult is like Elaine said, you give there's an accountability. He has something to do, and the next session he will come not prepared. Or worst case, he will postpone and postpone and postpone and postpone until you don't see him anymore. So that happened. I'm sure that happened to Benji and Elaine and June, wherein the coaches would say, "Okay, let's meet next week," and then next week doesn't come, or next month, and next month doesn't come until it drags and drags and drags. And that's when you have to stop and think: does this person really like coaching? Is this person really coachable? Is he serious about coaching? And that's where recontracting may come in.
And Benji, what is that point where you say, okay, this is it, it's working?
I've not encountered that yet, so
Oh, you're lucky.
I really can't speak to that. Practically all the programs that coaching programs that I've had are actually company sponsored, and so one of the things that of course is, as I mentioned earlier, that's critical to the coaching conversation is the confidentiality between what's taken up in each of the coaching sessions. However, of course, as the sponsoring company, someone in the organization who's signing the check for the program would want to get some kind of an update on what's happening. So one of the things that I always mention to my coachee would be what I am obligated to report to the sponsoring company. And one of those really is that not a lot of things, certainly not the topic, what's taken up, but a lot of those would be around the regularity of the coaching sessions, whether there's a lot of postponement, and also the preparedness, as mentioned earlier, as the preparedness of the coachee going into each coaching session, because those are part of the agreements, roles, responsibilities that is pre-agreed at the beginning of a coaching program between the coach and the coachee. So that's sort of, in a way, how I leave it to the sponsoring company to nudge perhaps a coachee who's been not responsive to or keeps postponing our coaching sessions. But I've never really gotten to a situation yet where they've had to say, well, let's not continue this program.
And June, in a company-sponsored engagement, like what Benji mentioned, has it ever happened where the coach says, I don't like my coach, I want you to change my coach? Have you experienced that?
Well, not in my case, at least either directly or indirectly. When I say indirectly, I suppose if that had been the discovery or realization of the performer, then ultimately the sponsoring organization or the point of contact would probably have informed me and asked for a replacement coach. But fortunately, it has not happened. And so I guess to that particular point, I don't have any direct experience. Yeah, but I guess in every conversation, you would sense that whether, I mean, if a coach is particularly sensitive and very well focused on the body language, the verbals and the non-verbals, as Elaine had alluded to much earlier in the conversation. You can see whether there's chemistry. As a matter of fact, in the earlier example I cited, the person began to actually open up as early as the second session. So I mean, just listening to that, as opposed to, let's say, having 3 or 4 sessions and it's like pulling teeth, then you can tell if there's chemistry. So there could be telltale signs that are probably much more concrete rather than imagined. So I think those would be some indicators, John Marie.
Thank you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there are still a few questions in my list, but unfortunately, we're actually a little over time at this point. But before we close out formally the panel discussion, maybe I can just go through the 4 of you quick 30-second message to our participants on coaching and coaches. Let me start with Elaine.
Well, coaching is very, very fulfilling. It's a mission. I think Benji said that earlier. It's a mission. It's a purpose that I have in life. My purpose is described by this power in you. So it's really about empowering people, powering teams, powering businesses, and I think coaching, for those who wish to pursue coaching, can be one avenue, one way that you could empower people. And of course, not just for professional coaches, but as well as for leaders and managers in the corporate environment. You can always practice coaching, on the job, in the workplace. And so pursue that, and I hope you've learned something from this session that can help you with that. Thank you.
Thanks, Elaine. How about you, Benji?
What I'd like to say is that we need to understand the difference between being able to coach and to be a coach. There's a difference. There's a skill part, but there's also that part that for me is really important, because the premise of being a coach is, as Elaine said, being egoless, learning humility, postponing judgment, being able to listen and really focus on the conversation, making that person at that moment feel very important, being the most important person during that conversation. It's a trait that would be really great to embody, not just when I'm doing coaching, but in any activity that I'd be doing. So to me, it's a journey as well of, I really can't say that I'm a total embodiment of those characteristics that makes a coach. I do coaching, but I'm still very much in the journey of what it really means to be a coach. That's what I'd like to say.
Thanks, Benji. Penny, you've gone to the extent of even sharing a lot of your thoughts and your ideas in, is it 3 books now?
Yeah, 3 books. 4th book coming in November.
There you go. There's a big pitch on that one. But Penny?
So for me, I've known people who took up coaching courses, a 1-year course to be a coach, and then they realized this is not for me. Coaching is not for everyone. As mentioned to by Benji and by Elaine, coaching is really wanting to help people. It's more of a vocation than anything else. It's wanting to help people be the best version of themselves and realize that they can be whatever they want to be. And my books are always slanted to that. So it's bringing out the best in people. Now for those who want to be coached, it's not all corporate coaching, it's not all leadership coaching, there's life coaching, there's fitness coaching, there's other types of coaching. And I've had coaches who in the first 5 sessions would cry and cry and cry and cry. and I'd let them cry because that is what they need. So it's really helping them realize what they want and also what you can give as a coach. Again, I'd like to just reiterate, coaching is not for everyone. Coaching is a vocation.
I like that. June?
Yeah, of course, you had to call me last, so they've said everything, right? But really, yeah, I think what Benji, Elaine, and Penny all resonate very well and align. I think that really to be an authentic and effective coach, one has to be genuinely concerned in helping individuals become a better person. If that is not your initial and fundamental motivation and inspiration, then to Benji's definition, you're probably applying coaching rather than being a coach. Because I think it has to be part of your character that you're looking at another person and saying, what can this person become in his or her full potential? And how can I be an instrument in that process, in that interaction, or in that encounter? And if one takes that to heart, then it may not be easy. That's why you still need the technical skills training, but at least the character part is there because it needs to be dictated by your heart. And your heart says, I want this person to achieve what he or she may not be able to simply by looking at the present perspective and not being having someone as a sounding board or having someone ask the right questions or having someone hold his or her hand as they journey together. So I think that's really at the heart of being an effective coach. You need to first love it. You need to first want the individual to become the most of what he or she can possibly be. Thank you, Jones.
And it's like the mission. In the case of our four panelists tonight, you could really see the passion that they have towards this particular, for me, I call it a vocation. So thank you very much to Benji, Elaine, Penny, June. Thank you very much for the very insightful discussion that we had tonight. To formally close our session tonight, let me call back one of the directors of POWERinU and one of our panelists, Mr. Nestor Martin Marfori.
Okay, thank you very much, Jo Marie. Of course, you just had to use my formal name. So thank you for joining us in this evening's interaction. And thank you so much, Jo Marie, for really facilitating. I know that it was a mouthful, and certainly it was a pleasure for us to have you here. It was a pleasure to have all of our attendees and our participants participate actively. Thank you for all of those who passed on all of your questions ahead of time. And what we'd like to do now is just move on to some things and some announcements. We would not like to close this evening without saying that. We would like to invite you, and we look forward to having you again. Join us on May 5 for the webinar entitled Unlocking the Happiness Hullabaloo. Join the webinar and learn to do what makes you happy by understanding 7 types of happiness and pinpointing activities that ignite happiness for you. Take away 1 or 2 hacks that will make your life worth living. Everyone who is registered in this webinar this evening will automatically get an email to our next webinar. And lastly, everyone can access the recording of this webinar through POWERinU's website, Facebook page, and YouTube channel. Now, we're happy to announce Coaching for a Cause. If you want to try out coaching, POWERinU has a special program in celebration of International Coaching Week this coming May 16 to May 31. Make a donation of 1,200 pesos to the charity called Tulong Pagkain para sa Walang Tahanan and avail of POWERinU's complimentary 3-hour coaching sessions on a first-come, first-served basis. Limited coaching slots are available. TPWT are community pantries in Macapagal Avenue, Rojas Boulevard, Manila, Katipunan Avenue in Quezon City, which is organized by the Anligaya ng Panginoon Foundation. Please note, your donation of 1,200 pesos will be used to sponsor a beneficiary's one hot meal per day for a month. So you can learn more and register to this complimentary coaching web program by visiting POWERiNU's website by April 11, Monday. You may also check out POWERiNU's coaching solutions such as the Coaching Clinic, the standard for creating coaching culture and igniting business performance, empowering your leadership in a digital future through coaching based on the USA-based Association of Talent Development, and of course, executive, business, life, career, and team coaching by POWERiNU certified coaches. Finally, we would like to request for 10 seconds of your time to answer this short poll so we can get your feedback. Just click the link we sent in the chat box or scan the QR code on the screen. Your responses will help us further improve. So thank you in advance for your feedback. And once again, Jo Marie, thank you for hosting. Thank you everyone for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you all on May 5. Good day, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you very much in behalf of POWERiNU. Thank you.